AFC North today. Ravens, win totals 8. Last year, 8-7-1 ATS, 9-7 in the over, 9-7 straight up. I don't know how to look at this. They're getting older. Defense is still solid. But, offensive issues. Flacco was terrible during many long stretches of the season. But then again, they're only one play away from making the playoffs.
That's just it. I mean, it's 3 years now in a row that the Ravens haven't made the postseason. They've improved. They were 5-11 in 2006 and 2015, 8-8 in 2016. Last year, up to 9-7, despite a bunch of injuries, despite a wide receiver core that was non-existent. They still won 9 games. This year lined as 8. They're certainly not a sexy team in the offseason betting markets, in large part because it's been a relatively quiet offseason. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But I want to talk the start about Baltimore, about something they did. They reduced prices for like 21 items at the concession stands. There were a lot of no-shows at the end of last year. This franchise, again, a team that won 9 games. They were a winning squad. They own Baltimore. Everyone in Baltimore is a Ravens fan. Support has been dissipating a little bit of late. That's a concern. That puts pressure on the likes of John Harbaugh and Joe Flacco, 2 guys who, I don't know that it's going to say they must win in 2018 or it's their last hurrah, but there's pressure on Baltimore this year the way there hasn't been in seasons past. And from an offseason standpoint, again, they were fairly quiet when it comes to additions and subtractions.
Well, this is odd, too, that number one, they take a quarterback, and they like Jackson. We're on that coming up. They also have 5 new wide receivers. Crabtree, they grabbed Snead. He comes over. It didn't work out last year with the guys they brought in. So, they got to get on the same page, and they have to do it in a hurry as you get all these new guys to throw to.
Well, I think it's a positive sign. This team needed an infusion of receiver talent. You talk about John Brown from Arizona, Michael Crabtree from the Raiders, Snead from New Orleans. They revamped their offensive line in terms of re-signing. They did lose Ryan Jensen to Tampa. They lost the guard, Luke Bowanako for New England. Danny Woodhead retired. Ben Watson's going to be in New Orleans. Mike Wallace, Michael Campanero, both are gone in free agency. The bigger concerns are on the offensive line. I'm not concerned about their receiving core. And again, you look at what they did in the draft. It wasn't just the receivers. Hayden Hurst as their number 1 pick as a tight end, or their first likely contributor as a tight end. And they drafted a pair of tight ends. Hurst has potential to be an impact player. Defensively, the team's got a pair of Pro Bowl linebackers and Mosley and Suggs. You look at the cornerbacks, Jimmy Smith's coming back from an Achilles injury, but boy, this Ravens secondary looks good. Marlon Humphrey was delicious for times last year. At safety, they've invested a ton of money with Eric Weddle and company. Tony Jefferson has been a big contributor for them. There's a lot to like for a team that's lined at 8 wins when it comes to personnel for the Ravens. I don't think this team is in a bad spot at all, even though, as you mentioned, they brought in Lamar Jackson with that first pick. Pressure for Flacco? I'm not so sure. The coaching staff for Baltimore, let's not forget, they've got guys who coached Michael Vick. They've got guys who coached Colin Kaepernick. I'm expecting a little trickery with Lamar Jackson early on and throughout the course of the season for Baltimore. It may make them a little bit tougher to defend.
That's pretty much what Morningweg said, that they'll have a package ready for him, and they're excited to put him in there and see what happens as far as the package, not starting, but getting him some plays and maybe treat him like a Cordell Stewart, something like that. Who knows? Also, they talked to Dez Bryant. Thought they had a deal done, but they couldn't get something done with Dez. He said no to the Ravens there as well. All right, what do you have on the schedule? And all the lines are up at CG Technology here, weeks 2 through 15.
Yeah, their schedule is essentially middle of the pack. In fact, the CG put out the lines for the first 15 weeks of the season, week 17, which is the 16th game. They're not going to post lines now because there's so many variables. But the bottom line is they're favorites in 6 games, they're underdogs in 6 games, and they're pick 'em in 3, essentially. So that's boom, an 8-win team, according to the betting markets. When you look at the nuance of the schedule, of course, the AFC North plays the AFC West and the NFC South this year. You have to like Baltimore's 2 extra games. Buffalo and Tennessee, 2 teams that could be competing for last place this season. So the 2 extras work. The AFC West / NFC South duo not necessarily an easy pair for NFC North teams. And you look at the schedule for the first 6 on the road, and the home games. They had Denver at home, and New Orleans at home, and Pittsburgh at home.
Yeah.
They better win week 1. They better win week 2 at Cincy, because things do get tough for this squad. It eases up a little bit down the stretch, but Baltimore certainly doesn't have a quote-unquote easy schedule. It's middle of the pack, although I got to say, first lean has me liking this team more than I dislike it. Lean towards Baltimore over 8 wins. Like the show? Help us keep the lights on. Please make sure to comment, share, and subscribe to all the Sportsbook Review videos. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Enjoy the game.